In the winter of 1846, a group of 87 pioneers set out to reach California. Only about half of them survived. This is the true story of the Donner Party, and the decision that turned a journey west into a fight for survival. The group left Illinois in the spring, following the well-worn Oregon Trail toward the promise of fertile land in California. But partway through the journey, they made a fatal choice. A guidebook promised a shortcut, a new route through Utah's Wasatch Mountains that claimed to save several hundred miles. It had never actually been tested by a wagon party this size. The shortcut turned into a nightmare almost immediately. Instead of saving time, the group spent weeks hacking a path through dense forest and rugged terrain. Precious summer days slipped away. By the time they reached the Great Salt Lake Desert, they had lost nearly a month they didn't have to spare. Crossing the desert nearly finished them before the mountains even had a chance to. Oxen collapsed from thirst. Wagons were abandoned. Families who had started the journey with everything they owned now carried only what they could save by hand. By late October, the group reached the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains, exhausted and dangerously low on supplies. They needed to cross before winter sealed the mountain pass shut. They were only days away. But the mountains had other plans. An early, brutal snowstorm hit, far sooner and heavier than anyone expected. The pass, now known as Donner Pass, became completely impassable. Snowdrifts piled 20 feet high, trapping 81 people in the mountains with only a few days of food left. They built crude cabins and tents, hoping the snow would clear. It never did. Winter in the Sierra Nevada that year would become one of the worst on record. As weeks turned into months, food ran out completely. Survivors ate their oxen, then boiled leather straps and shoes just to have something in their stomachs. Some tried eating tree bark and twigs. People began dying, one by one, from starvation and exposure. In December, a group of 17 of the strongest members attempted a desperate escape on foot, hoping to reach help and send back a rescue party. They called themselves the Forlorn Hope. The journey that should have taken days took over a month. Several members died along the way. It was during this desperate trek that the unthinkable happened. Facing complete starvation, some survivors made the decision to eat the flesh of those who had already died. It was an act of last resort, born from a situation almost impossible for anyone today to imagine. Word of their survivors' condition eventually reached California, and rescue parties were assembled. But reaching the trapped families in the mountains proved incredibly difficult. It would take 4 separate rescue missions, spread out over months, to bring out the survivors still trapped in the snow. Rescuers arriving at the camps described scenes of horror. The dead lay where they had fallen, since the living were often too weak to bury them. Some survivors, driven to the edge of sanity by months of starvation, had resorted to consuming the flesh of the dead simply to stay alive long enough to be found. Of the 87 people who set out on that fateful shortcut, only 48 survived to reach California. Nearly half the group perished in the mountains, victims of a decision made months earlier that seemed at the time like a reasonable way to save a little time. Today, Donner Pass and Donner Lake carry their name as a permanent reminder. The story of the Donner Party has become one of America's most infamous cautionary tales. A story of ambition, desperation, and the terrifying lengths people will go to survive. If this story moved you, subscribe. Every week, we bring history's most incredible true stories back to life.